A USA Today article shines light on the Dallas Stars and their control over youth hockey in North Texas and raises concerns if the Stars are growing the game in the most ethical and transparent way as possible.
You're Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan. Please be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Welcome back to another week of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And today we'll be discussing an article from the USA Today. I'm sure many of you have read or at least seen over the weekend. Headline: They Control Everything, How the Dallas Stars Monopolize Texas Youth Hockey, written by Kenny Jacoby. And if you recall, just a few months ago, Jacoby wrote a piece about how Dallas Stars executives were profiting off youth hockey with stay-to-play tournaments in Oklahoma and Texas as well. So this article is really fascinating. It makes a few claims I want to get into today. I want to try to lay out some of the facts and then share some of my opinions on the matter. As someone that grew up in DFW and really grew up in Star Centers from the age of 5 to 18, some of this isn't very surprising, and I think is more of a hockey culture issue than maybe just specifically in North Texas. But I can certainly see why parents are speaking out, and I think it's a good thing. And maybe some of it is exaggerated, but I don't believe all these parents have something to say and have a reason to lie in a lot of ways as well. But I just kind of want to lay out the article and jump into that and hear your thoughts on the matter as well in the comments below. But we'll start with here. It says, in Dallas, the Stars spent decades turning what was once seen as a community good into a lucrative arm for their for-profit enterprise. It says here, a quote, "We're really proud of everything we built here, and we're committed to continuing to grow hockey in the community and across the state," said Dan Stachel, the Stars chief operating officer. They answered a few questions that the USA Today had. It says, "We become the model for all non-traditional NHL markets that both the NHL and USA Hockey continually point to in terms of how to grow the game, because that's the focus for everybody." It also goes in that the Stars regularly raise prices on their services while diminishing their quality. They repeatedly retaliate against people they perceive as threats, from coaches who defect to other rinks to parents who criticize them on Facebook. It says the Stars capitalized on the dynamic by building an ice empire. They convinced 7 local municipalities to spend tens of millions of taxpayer dollars building rinks that the Stars run and profit from. Their ownership group bought up 3 more. Along the way, at least 8 other independent ice hockey rinks went out of business. Now, every level of amateur hockey in North Texas, from preschoolers to adults, run through the state's NHL team. And I have firsthand experience with that as well. I grew up in Richardson. I used to play and practice at ITC, and that's what I still call it, the Ice Training Center, which was in Richardson. And then I believe in like the early 2010s, eventually the Stars bought it up and it became a Star Center. Now, some of the questions that arose from certain statements like this is, what if the Stars didn't go in and take control and run these specific rinks? Would ITC still be a thing, or would it have closed? We all know hockey is an expensive sport, and that is the one point we're just not going to really ever get away from, which stinks. But hockey is expensive. We can all be honest about that, and we all know the Stars can charge really whatever they want. I would also be curious to see what is the comparable price from other places, other markets in the USA. And maybe even Minnesota, which I know is a completely different story. Most of their rinks are community-based, but California, maybe Florida, some other non-traditional markets. What are the ice prices in places like there? Is this just a North Texas thing, or is this really a problem throughout the country because prices are just going up? Everything has become more expensive, and I don't know if we can ever get away from that or if ice costs can ever come down because, as I mentioned, would an ITC be around today if it wasn't for the Dallas Stars? I don't know. Someone could educate me more on that because that was a place I grew up playing. Addison, right? They had a rink that eventually closed down. I know Plano is a rink I used to play at a ton growing up, and they had issues with their ice on that one corner of the rink that was sinking. At one point, I remember playing games and you would just get lost in that corner. It was absolutely awful. And I think I read that the Stars kind of came in and they fixed that up. So without the Stars' help, would some of these rinks be around? Would there still be as many rinks in the North Texas area without them? I would debate there would not be. And there's no telling that the Stars have grown the game in DFW. I think it would be about a bit off your rocker if you don't believe that. But what really, I guess, eats at me is some of the claims about the Stars going after parents and the Stars sort of taking over operations of a local high school team. And it says here, this is from Lisa Bry. And she sat down with a front office executive and was told that basically she felt threatened. And the words were, "Let me remind you where you get your ice from." Bry had just been elected the president of Frisco Ice Hockey Association, a nonprofit hockey club for middle and high school students in Frisco, Texas. One of its board's first actions under her leadership was to cancel the contracts of two coaches who had received dismal reviews from parent feedback surveys. And then Bree said Dallas Stars executive Keith Andreessen told her the Stars, which ran the rink where the club practices, wanted the coach to stay. His next words are seared in her memory. "Let me remind you of where you get your ice from." Andreessen later said he did not use those words to Bry, though the implication was clear. Unless the club gave their coaches back, the Stars should stop letting its 6 teams practice in their rinks. She couldn't understand why an NHL team would strong-arm a youth hockey club over personal matter and hold its kids' ability to play hockey. And this is where it gets really interesting. And let me find the part of the article because I don't want to mess it up. I'm going to paraphrase a bit, but eventually when the Stars found out that Bree was not going to renew some of these contracts of these certain coaches, the Stars ended up taking control and forced basically all local high school teams for their coaches to be Stars employees. They would be hiring, and then those would be the coaches of certain high school teams, which is rather intriguing to me and kind of grinds my gears because if the board of the Frisco Youth Hockey Club felt it was necessary to make a change. And I know in the video, there was like kind of a video part to this in an article in the video. Bree states that they were not going to renew the contracts. I mean, here it says cancel. I don't know where the discrepancy is with that. But if the Stars, I don't really see the gain in that for Dallas in a lot of ways. And I think it hurts the product overall. If a youth hockey board or a high school team, let's say my kid plays, I play on a high school team. My dad was very, very involved growing up. Like if my dad or other parents felt the need to maybe switch a coach or change the coach for whatever reason. I mean, again, I'm not asking for a witch hunt, but if they just feel there's a better direction to go, why do the Stars care? And why should they have any input in what local high school teams are doing? Parents should be emboldened to do what they think is best for their children. And look, I can also see it from a side of maybe there's some takes out there that, oh, well, these parents are just mad their kids aren't getting playtime and all of this. From, I think, Bryce's perspective, her son's a goalie. I don't think you have to worry that much about a goalie getting ice time to some degree. I know you can have a number one goaltender, but again, I digress. I just don't see the real need for Dallas to be involved in those operations. And I think it keeps what could be potentially maybe bad coaches or coaches that are not qualified, are not doing a good enough job to stay around. And it mentions in the article that they eventually reinstated the two coaches for Frisco because they had not broken any rules. And I can understand that, but sometimes you get fired for not breaking rules if you're just bad at your job, or maybe your boss or company doesn't feel that you should continue work because they feel like they want to go in another direction. I don't know why we're taking that out of hands of parents in these high school clubs, high school teams. Just really, really fascinating stuff, and some questions I would love to hear be answered, because it just makes no sense to me why Dallas should be getting involved. The Stars should be getting involved in that way in youth hockey. It's sort of where I land on the conversation. We're going to continue this. There's a lot more substantiated claims in some adult leagues as well. And we'll clean up some of that stuff in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in a driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Monarch is a great way for you to track your shared and personal accounts with maybe a partner. Maybe you can find out with Monarch Money you're spending a bit too much on takeout. Maybe you're spending too much going out and trying to go to the movies. Maybe you're going out for a night with your buddies, and you can realize, okay, maybe I can dial back a bit and save a bit more. Save up for that big trip you've always been wanting to take. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, LOCKEDONNHL for half off your first year. By the way, I do want to give a shout out to Gavin Spittle of Spits and Suds. For those of you that want to hear some more information, or maybe heard from the horse's mouth himself, Kenny Jacoby, who wrote this article on USA Today. Spits and Suds put out an article. Gavin Spittle talked with Kenny Jacoby this past weekend. So be sure to check that out as well if you want to hear some more opinions and thoughts on the man that wrote the article as well. So we'll continue into some of the more claims here that the Dallas Stars are threatening certain parents or members of these clubs. It says here, this sort of wraps up my point with the Frisco Hockey Club. In the face of Andreessen's threat, Bryce stood her ground. The club did not renew the two coaches' contracts. Emails, meeting audio, internal documents, and dozens of interviews detail what happened next. That summer, the Stars informed all 24 local high school hockey clubs that the NHL team would be taking over their operations. No longer would the clubs set and collect their own fees, negotiate their own practice ice time, hire and pay their own coaches, or sign sponsors without the Stars' approval. All players would now pay the Stars directly. All coaches would be Stars hires and employees. The Stars imposed a fee structure that raised registration fees for many players while reducing the number of ice hours their teams received. All teams would now get 2 preseason games, which would be 1 fewer in the past. They also reduced the amount of regular season games, and a lot of club leaders were stunned. And again, it goes back, why do the Stars feel the need to have their hands on this? That's what makes it just seems shady, right? Like, it seems a bit shady that this certain Stars executive like Andreessen really wanted these two coaches to be involved with the Frisco Hockey Club, that they felt that all of a sudden they need to take over all operations of these hockey teams. It's really baffling to me, and goes back to sort of my hockey culture problem in a lot of ways. And look, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm probably implicit in this in a lot of ways as well. Someone that grew up in hockey. Some of it is just a boys' club. It really is everywhere. This is not just a Texas hockey thing. I promise you, I've been in a lot of different localities and communities. It's not just a Texas thing. But I think it can be exacerbated in a place like North Texas because it is non-traditional. That you can get places like, especially here, where certain coaches, certain can take advantage of people. And that's what's really sad in a lot of ways. And look, the ice costs and some of this article kind of brings up how they're charging a lot. Again, I would like to see what it's comparable to other places. Like it's just expensive to run a hockey rink. And if the Stars didn't come in and take a lot of these rinks, would these rinks still be available? But also it goes into how the Stars were going after certain parents that were criticizing them and their Star Center on a Facebook group. There was this popular Facebook group that this mom started, and sometimes she would post negative critiques on Star Center or just overall things about the Stars. She mentions how much money she spends on hockey. Again, not too surprised. I can't imagine what my dad spent. Again, I mentioned all the time, very lucky to have two parents that supported me to play hockey at the level I did for as long as I did. I know they worked their arses off to do that and allow me to do that. I'm very, very grateful. Not a lot of kids that grow up in the area are as lucky as I am, and it just becomes really, really expensive. But it talks how they're cracking down on dissent, says Jeremy Thompson was fed up. The Stars had raised registration fees for the adult league. He and his friends played in while also introducing a running clock during games, which significantly shortened teams' time on the ice. After nearly 1,000 people signed Thompson's online petition calling on the Stars to address his peers and concerns, he took to Facebook to suggest starting a beer league in one of the 3 non-Stars run hockey rinks in DFW. Soon after, a Stars rink manager banned Thompson from the league email show for violating the Stars social media policy. And their social media policy is this: the Children's Health Star Centers and Comerica Center expects those who use our facilities to conduct themselves in an appropriate and professional manner at all times. Social media communications targeted towards our membership that are used to commit abuse or misconduct and considered violations of policy and will not be tolerated. Now, I don't know if the claims in this Facebook group or this petition would be considered abuse or bullying or harassment. I would find that hard to believe. But he was banned and says you're consistent. There's an email here. Your consistent prolonged attempts online to draw people away from our programs and facility, as well as your continued defamation of Star Center programming, is in direct violation of that policy. The then Star Center Mansfield general manager Milt Heifels 2024 February email said. Really interesting. So he was kicked out of the league. And eventually ended up starting another league at one of those non-rain DFW rinks. But then the ban was lifted all of a sudden, and he was allowed to come back, and he never ended up coming back. But again, I think it just, to me, this is just straight opinion, seems like maybe there's some people out there, some individuals that just, they have this power and they want to use it. And for some reason, they're doing it against adult league guys that are playing at like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And look, I understand no organization, no Star Center, they don't want negative press or negative posts about what they do out there. I get that. But to like ban people from your Star Center for something that, was brought up organically, is just really confusing. And I don't see the win in it for the Stars or this individual. I don't see the win in it. It's just disgusting in a lot of ways, and frankly irritating, because there's also adults. I know this is maybe the less thought of topic, but there's some adults that grew up in DFW that didn't play hockey growing up. Maybe because it wasn't that big, because maybe they were born here before the Stars got here, and they never had a chance to play. And now there's some adults, they pick it up when they're 30, they pick it up when they're 40, gives them a chance to play. And again, it just feels like it's going against what the overall goal of what all these Star Centers are for. And I give them credit for doing, like growing the game and making it as successful and as big as it is. Like there's a ton of teams in Texas because of the Stars now. There's a ton of youth hockey teams. There's ones in Amarillo. There's ones in Odessa. There's teams in San Antonio and Houston. There's teams in Corpus Christi, right? There are teams because of what the Stars have done and how they've grown the game in just the state of Texas. And there's youth teams that are thriving. Like I've seen it. Like there's teams in El Paso. Like that's really cool. And to hear some of these claims, again, maybe some of these aren't substantiated enough for some of you. But I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I personally had a head coach in high school that was eventually kind of ran out of town for something as well. Now he coaches out east for something that was frivolous to really begin with. And because he, I guess, maybe upset one guy, and then all of a sudden he's banned from doing private lessons in rinks in DFW. Like, and was, nothing but a wonderful coach. Probably my favorite coach ever during my high school years. Like it was like, those are the type of things that even I have dealt with. I know it's anecdotal, but there is some of this stuff that I think really rings true for myself that grew up in this sort of hockey community. And it's even smaller in DFW, right? And you hear stuff about, oh, your kid's not gonna, you better be careful. Your kid may not be able to do what he wants to hide. Like I've heard about those conversations from other parents, and it would not shock me in the least bit if there are people making those claims, because to some degree they do have that power, which is sad, and they're going to use it against parents and children when their main idea or their main goal should be to be growing the game, not just hockey, making people better hockey players, just better people overall. Like I'm grateful for the game of hockey. I get to talk about it for a living. I'll always owe hockey a great deal of debt in my life. It allows me to do something like really fun, and just hearing this can be really discouraging for what I know and love to be true. So I really encourage you to listen or go through the article yourself, read some of the claims and more stuff, because there is a lot of fascinating stuff that may open your eyes to some things. Let's go ahead and kind of tie a bow on this and give you something to chew on the rest of the week. And this episode is not to bash the Dallas Stars. I just want parents and other individuals that are involved in these Dallas Stars travel hockey leagues, Dallas Stars adult leagues, to be held accountable as well for what they are doing, and making this the best place and the most welcoming hockey culture in DFW can possibly be, right? I think there are some individuals that need to be held accountable for their actions, because they are, in some degree, have the power to shape how kids perceive this sport. And if it continues to be a sport that just from the outside feels like I can't get involved, that stinks in a lot of ways. I do want to talk about the last sort of paragraph in this article, USA Today. After that article that we talked about back in March about the stay and play investigation, how certain Stars executives were profiting off that stay to play formula. By the way, those two executives are no longer working with the Dallas Stars. But a new league was formed, actually, in youth hockey. It's the Texas Hockey League. Mike Salikin, who's actually a coach in tribal hockey circles when I was growing up, it says, we want to be partners with them, but they get to determine their partnership with us, said Mike Salikin, a founding Texas Hockey League board member. I went and looked at their website. There's a lot of teams that are going to be involved. So I'm curious to see what the Dallas Stars Travel League is going to be like. But as they said here at the end, and this is the quote that it ends on, it says, ice is gold and they control the ice. And of course, like, it's awesome that they like there's, enough support to go create this hockey league. But again, they're going to have to play in Star Centers. Like, it's just sort of the way it goes. They're going to have to play in these certain rinks that the Stars own. And they control a lot of that. But there's 12 teams right here that are going to be involved. Like Amarillo's in here. You got McKinney North Stars, Oklahoma, San Antonio, Texas Tigers, Texas Warriors. So there's a lot of teams that have joined this new hockey league. But once again, a lot of these teams in the area, they're going to be practicing at Star Centers, and they're going to be playing games. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how this all kind of takes shape. And again, I don't think what the Stars are doing in terms of maybe ice time. Again, I would need to see some more information on it. I don't have a strong stance, but like, it's just expensive to run these rinks. I truly believe that. And I would love to see what kind of, so there are some comparisons to other markets to see, like, is it really that bad? Or is this just an issue that teams really across youth hockey teams are just dealing with across the issue? Like, I've been in Minnesota and Wisconsin recently as well. And, I heard parents and certain people complaining about ice time in those states as well. Because I imagine it's just really like, and I know it's completely different. It's a lot easier to maintain rinks in a cold climate, but there are people in those areas up north that have those issues too. Because I think it's just overall just becoming really, really expensive to run rinks in general. And I wonder if this is not solely just a North Texas issue. It's really the kind of the threats and maybe cracking down on certain players, taking over operations of high school teams that really just grinds my gears, because once again, feels like this kind of like, oh, old boys club, you rub my back, I rub your back. We'll keep you involved just because, like, you're buddies with these guys, and we're going to reinstate coaches that parents don't want. Or maybe a board voted on that they don't want to return as their head coach. And now the Stars can say, oh, no, that's not okay. What happened to empowering parents? That's different. But, I do want to give credit to the Stars for, like, the Little Rookies program, which is a program that would give, children free equipment and kind of go to Star Centers and practice for a couple of weeks to hopefully, kind of get them that itch and play. I think I was involved when I was 14 or 15. I think I was involved with the very first, like, go around of the Little Rookies program. As someone that played travel hockey, me and my buddies that played, like, we would volunteer and kind of, go on the ice, skate with these little kids. Play hockey with these little kids that have never played before. I remember I was like 14. I'm tying kids' skates and helping out parents, which is a bit weird, but also you gave me a taste and love for kind of that idea. And I hope one day when I have kids, like, I'll be able to do that with my son. And I want to coach him. I want him to get involved in hockey and give him the most exciting way, or just the best way possible to play. And I don't want to have this fear if I'm, still in DFW, like, if I say something like, my kid may get screwed over, or there's going to be, there's going to be some pushback, because there are parents that feel that way, that there would be pushback if they speak out against something they don't see as fit. And that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the Stars, not good for the organization. It's not good for hockey if people don't feel like they can speak up, right, in anything. If they don't feel, because that's when bad stuff happens, when people don't feel like they can speak up. That's when I think things can get worse. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. Again, I'm not going to act like I'm the most knowledgeable on this. I do have some experience, but once again, I'm kind of far away from like DFW North Texas hockey circles in today's world. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I don't know, that because I'm just frankly not involved in. I'm not in an adult league. I'm not going to pretend that I know all the inner workings of what's going on. I'm sure there's some of you that are involved that maybe know some more stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. And again, this is not a bash to Dallas Stars, but some people need to be held accountable. Like, they've done a wonderful job of making the sport as big as it is in this state, and that is fantastic. But it's time to maybe look in the mirror a bit and find out where there can be some changes, and where there can be some opportunities to change some things, and fix some things, or make the game of hockey better in this DFW community, because it has thrived here. I think that's fair to say. And the Stars deserve credit for that. I'll say that again. Alrighty, that's gonna do it for this episode of Locked On Stars. Please hit the subscribe button, drop a notification bell as well. Never miss an episode. Have a great rest of your day, Stars fans, and we'll see you on the next episode. So long.